Phantom Doubleday Dell Audio Publishing presents Foundation and Earth by Isaac Asimov. Why did I do it? Asked Golan Trevize. It wasn't a new question. Since he had arrived at Gaia, he had asked it of himself frequently. He would wake up from a sound sleep in the pleasant coolness of the night and find the question sounding in his mind like a tiny drumbeat. Why did I do it? Why did I do it? Now, for the first time, he managed to ask it of Dom, the ancient of Gaia. Do what, Trev? Dom replied. Dom was well aware of Trevise's tension, for he could sense the fabric of the councilman's mind. He did not respond to it. Gaia must in no way ever touch Trevise's mind. The decision I made, said Trevize, choosing Gaia as the future. You were right to do so. We Gaia know you are. That's your worth to us. You have the capacity for making the right decision on incomplete data. And you have made the decision. You chose Gaia. You rejected the anarchy of a galactic empire built on the technology of the first foundation, as well as the anarchy of a galactic empire built on the mentalics of the second foundation. You decided that neither could be long stable, so you chose Gaia. Yes, I chose Gaia, a super-organism, a whole planet with a mind and personality in common, so that one has to say we Gaia to express the inexpressible. Trevize paced the floor restlessly. And it will become eventually Galaxia, a super-organism, embracing all the swarm of the Milky Way. He stopped and turned almost savagely on Dom. I feel I'm right, as you feel it. But you want the coming of Galaxia, so you are satisfied with the decision. There's something in me, however, that doesn't want it. For that reason, I'm not satisfied. I want to know why I made the decision. We Gaia do not know how it is that you come to the right decision. Why do you distrust your decision so? Because I don't want to be part of a super-organism. Dom looked at Trevize thoughtfully. Do you want to change your decision then, Trev? You can, you know. I long to change the decision, but I can't do that merely because I dislike it. I have to know whether the decision is wrong or right. If you feel you are right, you are right. Then Trevize said, breaking out of the oscillation between feeling and knowing, I must find Earth. Because it has something to do with this passionate need of yours to know? Because it is another problem that troubles me unbearably, and because I feel there is a connection between the two. Granted, it is now thousands of years, 20,000 perhaps, since the people of the galaxy have concerned themselves with Earth. How is it possible that we have all forgotten our planet of origin? Surely there are records, or if not records, then records of records. The Galactic Library at Trantor must have had documents concerning Earth, but the material was removed in recent times. Why? If I find Earth, I will find out what it is hiding. I will know why I have chosen Gaia and Galaxia over our individuality. Then I will know, not feel, that I am correct. And if I am correct, he shrugged, so be it. Trevize was surrounded by the tameness of Gaia, the comfortable temperature, the pleasant movement of the air, the trees that grew in regular spacings like an orchard. Of all the objects on this planet, the only wild card was Trevize's own ship, the Far Star. The ship had been restocked with food and drink and its mechanical workings carefully checked. Nor did the ship need refueling, for it was one of the few gravitic ships of the Foundation, running on the energy of the general gravitational field of the galaxy. 3 months ago, Trevize had been a councilman of Terminus. He had, in other words, been a member of the legislature of the Foundation. Was it only 3 months ago? It seemed like half of his 32 years since he and Janov Pellerat, that able, naive scholar of myths and legends, had left Terminus. Pellerat had been driven by his antiquarian enthusiasms to discover the site of long-lost Earth, and Treves had gone along, using Pellerat's goal as a cover for what he thought his own real aim was. They did not find Earth, but they did find Gaia, and Treves had then found himself forced to make his fateful decision. Now it was he, Treves, who was searching for Earth. As for Pellerat, he too had found something he didn't expect. He had found the dark-eyed Bliss, the young woman who was Gaia, even as Dom was, and as the nearest grain of sand or blade of grass was. He had fallen in love with a woman less than half his years, and she, oddly enough, seemed content with it. It was odd, but Treves recognized that each person must find happiness in his or her own manner. That was the point of individuality. The individuality that Treves, by his choice, was abolishing, given time, over all the galaxy. "Golan!" The voice intruded on Treves's thoughts, and he looked up to see Pellerat's long, solemn face and silky white hair. "Ah, Janov, you've managed to tear yourself away from Bliss. You must be here to say goodbye." "Well, no, not exactly. Golan, when the two of us left Terminus, we were intent on finding Earth." "And I will carry on, Janov. The task is mine now." "Yes, but it's mine also. Mine still. But I want to go with you." Treves felt astonished. "You can't mean that, Janov. You have Gaia now." "No offense, Golan, but you don't know enough. It is I who know the myths and legends. I can direct you." "And leave Bliss? Come now." A faint pink colored Pellerat's cheeks. "Well, no, old chap, not that. You see, Bliss wants to come too." For the first time during his stay on Gaia, Treves entered Blissenobiorella's house, which now sheltered Pellerat as well. As an individual, she was a woman in her early 20s. As part of Gaia, however, she was thousands of years old, which was reflected in the way she spoke sometimes and in the atmosphere that inevitably surrounded her. Did he want it this way for everyone who existed? No, surely no. And yet, Bliss said, "I will get to the point. You stressed your desire to find Earth and insisted on its importance. I do not see that importance, but you have the knack of being right. So Gaia must accept what you say. If the mission is crucial to your decision concerning Gaia, it is of crucial importance to Gaia, and so Gaia must go with you, if only to try to protect you." "When you say Gaia must go with me, you mean you must go with me. Am I correct?" "I am Gaia," said Bliss simply. "But so is everything else on this planet. Why you?" "Because Pell wishes to go with you, and he would not be happy with any other portion of Gaia than myself." Pellerat, who sat rather unobtrusively on a chair in the corner, said, "That's true, Golan." "Will you still be part of Gaia if you leave here?" Treves asked Bliss. "I need not be. I can isolate myself if I am in danger, for instance, so that harm will not spill over into Gaia. That, however, is a matter of emergency only. Generally, I will remain part of Gaia." "Somehow I don't find that comforting," said Treves. "It means that anything that you hear or see will be heard and seen by all of Gaia. What if I wish privacy?" Bliss looked exasperated, and Pellerat suddenly broke in. "You know, Golan, I don't want to interfere, since I obviously don't know much about Gaia, but I've noticed that even if all of Gaia knows your business intimately, that doesn't mean that Gaia necessarily cares. Isn't that so, Bliss?" "I've never thought of it that way, Pell, but there is something in what you say. Still, this privacy Treves talks about is nothing we value at all. But let us not debate the matter. Gaia will be with you not as a spy, but as a friend and helper." Golan Treves shrugged. "In that case, let us return to the matter of Earth. Dom says Gaia does not know the location of Earth. Could Gaia consciously be withholding knowledge from me?"
"Of course not. Gaia hide nothing, and we tell no lies. An isolate, an individual in isolation, might tell lies. He is limited and therefore fearful. Gaia, however, is a planetary organism of great mental ability. Gaia has no fear.
But you must have records, Treves pressed.
I, we Gaia, have a memory. I remember.
What do you remember? Asked Treves.
Everything.
Then let's make use of your world memory, Treves said. Probe backward and tell me how far you can remember. For a moment, Bliss looked blankly at Treves as though in a trance. Then she said,
15,000 years.
Why did you hesitate?
It takes time to dig them out.
15,000 years, then. Is that when Gaia was settled?
No, to the best of our knowledge, that took place yet another 3,000 years earlier. I am not quite certain. It was before Gaia had developed global memory.
Treves frowned. Yet, before you could rely on your collective memory, Gaia must have kept records in the usual sense.
Bliss hesitated again, longer this time. I find no sign of any such records. I presume that they proved of no great importance, and they were destroyed.
I presume otherwise, Treves answered. Far from judging early records to be archaic and unnecessary, a civilization is likely to treat them with exaggerated reverence. If Gaia's pre-global records were destroyed, that destruction was not likely to be voluntary. Take the case of the library at Trantor. There, all references to Earth were removed by someone or some force other than that of the Trantorian Second Foundationers.
But how do you know our early records involved Earth at all? Bliss asked.
Because according to you, Gaia was founded at least 18,000 years ago. That brings us back to the period before the establishment of the Galactic Empire, when the galaxy was being settled, and the prime source of settlers was Earth. Gaia had to be colonized by Earthmen, or the descendants of Earthmen.
This is conjecture, Treves, Bliss said. You have no evidence.
But Gaia itself insists that it is my special talent to come to correct conclusions on the basis of insufficient evidence. Bliss was silent. Do you two still want to come? Treves asked.
Yes, said Bliss at once.
And yes, said Pellerat. When the Far Star's airlock closed behind them, Treves felt as though he had shut out not exactly a nightmare, but something so seriously abnormal that it had prevented him from breathing freely. As they prepared to embark, Pellerat continued to defend Gaia.
After all, Golan, when we build a house, or a spacecraft for that matter, we try to create a perfect shelter. We arrange to have its temperature, its air quality, and everything else suit us perfectly. Gaia is just an extension of the desire for comfort and security extended to an entire planet. What's wrong with that?
What's wrong with that, Treves answered, is that my house or my spaceship is engineered to suit me. I am not engineered to suit it. Of course, even with the airlock shut and takeoff imminent, he was aware that an element of abnormality was still with him in the person of Bliss. While she was there, Gaia was there, and yet he was also somehow convinced that her presence was essential. He looked about the vessel and found it beautiful. It had been his only since Mayor Harla Brano of the Foundation had forced him into it and sent him out among the stars, a living lightning rod, designed to draw the fire of those she considered enemies of the Foundation. That task was done, but the ship was still his, and he had no plans to return it. The ship, in fact, seemed like home to him now, more so than the home that had once been his on Terminus. Terminus, the off-center hub of the Foundation, destined by Harry Seldon's plan to form a second and greater empire in the course of the next 5 centuries, except that he, Treves, had now derailed that plan. He had elected a new society and a new scheme of life that would be an extension of Gaia. The revolution was a frightening one, and now he was embarking on a journey to prove to himself, or to disprove, that what he had done was right. The circle of light on the computer glowed invitingly. Trevise touched it and the light spread out to cover the desktop, and the outline of a right and left hand appeared on it. He thrust his hands out, right, left, and placed them on the outlines upon the desk. He willed the computer to show him the galaxy, like a foreshortened pinwheel. He located the sun of Seychelles, the nearest important star to Gaia, then the sun of Terminus, then of Trantor. Then the far star lifted off of Gaia's planetary surface as though floating on some cosmic sea. They were on their way to Comparellin, Trevise announced to Pellerat and Bliss. "Comparellin?" said Pellerat, not remembering. "Surely you recall my friend, the traitor Monli Compor? We three met on Seychelles." Pellerat looked enlightened. "Of course I remember. Comparellin was the world of his ancestors. If it was. I don't necessarily believe anything Compor said. But Comparellin is a known world. And Compor said that its inhabitants knew of Earth. Well then, we'll go there and find out." "Yes, but if we're doing it on the basis of what Compor told us, then perhaps we ought to consider everything he told us. I seem to remember that he told us most emphatically that Earth did not exist as a living planet, that its surface was radioactive, and that it was utterly lifeless. And if that is so, then we are going to Comparellin for nothing." The three were lunching in the dining room, and Trevise and Bliss were engaged in another of their debates over the virtues, or as Trevise saw it, the shortcomings of Gaia. The occasion this time was Bliss's gingerly approach to her meal. Trevise, with a touch of impatience, had reminded her that they did have Gaian food on board, and Bliss had responded that she would rather conserve it. "We don't know how long we will be out in space, and eventually I must learn to eat isolate food," she had said. "Is that so bad?" Trevise retorted. "Or must Gaia eat only Gaia?" Bliss sighed. "Actually, there's a saying of ours that goes, 'When Gaia eats Gaia, there is neither loss nor gain.' It is no more than a transfer of consciousness up or down the scale. Whatever I eat on Gaia is Gaia, and when it is metabolized and becomes me, it is still Gaia. By the fact that I eat, some of what I eat, therefore, has a chance to participate in a higher intensity of consciousness." "All this can be said of any world," Trevise retorted. "Every atom in me has a long history, during which it may have been part of many living things." "On Gaia, however, all atoms are also continually part of a higher planetary consciousness, of which you know nothing. Consider, for example, how at any given moment there may be thousands of human beings on Gaia engaged in sex, millions who are eating, drinking, or engaged in other pleasure-giving activities. This gives rise to a general aura of delight that Gaia feels, every part of it. The lower animals, the plants, the minerals, have their progressively milder pleasures that also contribute to a generalized joy of consciousness that Gaia feels in all its parts always, and that is unfelt in any other world." "We have our particular joys," said Trevise, "which we too can share after a fashion if we wish, or keep private." "If you could feel our joys, you would know how poverty-stricken you isolates are in that respect." "How can you know what we feel?" Trevise rejoined. Pellerat was feeling uncomfortable. "I think it is time to change the subject. It does seem to me that my sole occupation on board ship is subject-changing." "Why is that?" Trevise said solemnly. "Because Bliss and I cling to whatever subjects we discuss, even to the death. We depend upon you, Janoff, to save our sanity. What subject do you want to change to, old friend?" "I've gone through my reference material on Comparellin, and the entire sector of which it is a part is rich in legends of age. They set their settlement way back in time, in the first millennium of hyperspatial travel. Comparellin even speaks of a legendary founder named Benbali, and they say that the original name of their planet was Benbali World. I confess I've never heard of anyone named Benbali in actual history,
But then there was a deliberate suppression of earlier history in the late imperial era. The emperors, as you may recall, were anxious to reduce local patriotism, which they considered divisive. A determined and powerful government can undermine the truths of history and force a populace to depend on scattered material, whereby early history tends to degenerate into folk tales. Invariably, such folk tales will fill with exaggeration. This is why I am skeptical of Comparellan's claims. In every corner of the galaxy there are folk tales that speak of early colonization from Earth itself, though that is not always the name they give to the parent planet.
What else do they call it? Treves asked.
Oh, any number of names. They call it the Only, sometimes, and sometimes the Oldest. Or they call it the Mooned World, which, according to some authorities, is a reference to its giant satellite.
Treves said gently, Janov, stop. You'll continue forever with your authorities and counter-authorities. Treves doesn't like me, Bliss told Janov Pellerat when they were alone.
That's not so, Pellerat said. I talked to him about it. Now, don't frown. I was extraordinarily tactful, dear child. He assured me he did not dislike you. He is suspicious of Gaia, and unhappy over the fact that he has had to elect it the future of humanity.
But it's not just Gaia, whatever he may tell you, Pell. And remember that he's very fond of you, and doesn't want to hurt your feelings. He dislikes me, personally.
No, Bliss, he couldn't possibly.
Not everyone is forced to love me simply because you do, Pell. Let me explain. Treves thinks I'm a robot.
A look of astonishment came over Pell's face. Surely he can't think you're an artificial human being?
Why is that so surprising? Gaia was settled with the help of robots, and as Gaia formed, the robots left.
Well, if the robots left, Pellerat broke in.
Yes, but what if some remained behind? What if I am one of them? 15,000 years old, perhaps, and so cleverly artificial that in every respect, from largest to smallest, I am indistinguishable from the natural. Treves suspects that. Pell, dear, how would you feel about making love to a robot?
He stared at her uneasily. It seems to me that a robot that can in no way be distinguished from a human being is a human being. If you were such a robot, you would be nothing but a human being to me.
That's what I wanted to hear you say, Pell. She put her arms around Pellerat's neck and kissed him.
The official who boarded the ship at the entry station that floated above Comparellan wore a holographic card that identified him as A. Kendre. How did you get down here so fast? We weren't expecting you for another 2 hours.
It's the new model ship, Treves said politely.
Gravitic? Kendre said. When Treves nodded, Kendre added, Very interesting. You hear them, but you never see them somehow. You three, all the people on board?
Treves said, That's right.
Any live animals, plants?
No and no, said Treves. Kendre made notes. He turned back to Treves.
Your identification, Mr. Treves?
Kendre looked them over and again expressed some surprise.
Your papers, Mr. Treves, identify you as a councilman of the Terminus legislature, high official of the Foundation. What is the purpose of your visit?
Foundation security, and that's all the answer I'm going to give you. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
He glanced at Pellerat's papers and then asked for the young ladies. Bliss said, I'm afraid I don't have any papers, sir.
I beg your pardon?
She didn't bring any, Treves answered for her. An oversight. It's perfectly all right. I'll take responsibility.
Kendre said, I wish I could let you do that, but I'm not allowed.
Treves hesitated a moment. May I speak to your immediate superior, then?
You certainly may, said Kendre, but just between us, that would make matters worse. We're not part of the Foundation metropolitan territory, you know. We're only an associated power, and we take that seriously.
The people are anxious not to appear Foundation puppets, so my superior would probably get extra points if he resisted doing a special favor for a Foundation official. Trevise's expression darkened. Mr. Kendre, may I speak to you privately in the pilot room? In the pilot room, Trevise explained to Kendre, man to man, that he and Pellerat had been alone on the mission for quite a while. Then, some time ago, Pellerat had found this little lady. We decided to bring her along, he said. It keeps us healthy to make use of her now and then. He could see Kendre's hesitancy, so he laid it on even thicker. See, the thing is, Pellerat's got a relationship back on Terminus, and that's why we just as soon this Bliss, as she calls herself, not get mentioned. If she does get mentioned officially, there's going to be misery galore for old Pellerat when he gets back home. Well, I have a wife, too, so I understand, said Kendre. But look, even if I let you through, as soon as they find out that the lady is without papers, she's in prison, and you and Mr. Pellerat are in trouble, and I myself will surely be out of a job. Mr. Kendre, trust me in this. Once I'm on Comparellan, I'll be safe. I can talk about my mission to some of the right people, and when that's done, there'll be no further trouble. Kendre hesitated, then said, All right, I'll let you through, but take a word of warning. I start from this minute figuring out a way to save my butt if the matter comes up. Comparellan isn't an easy place for people who step out of line. For anyone who has been in space and experienced its changelessness, the real excitement of spaceflight comes when it is time to land on a new planet. In an ordinary ship, there would have been the excitement of touching down and skimming across the runway. But the Far Star, since it was gravitic, floated down into its assigned position in the port. When they opened the airlock, there was a chill in the air, and Bliss, who had never before been outside of a temperate climate, drew her coat tightly around her. Trevise did his best to ignore the temperature and found a taxi station. A taxi glided up to them on diamagnetic skis. It was dark gray in color and bore its white taxi insignia on the back doors. The taxi driver was wearing a dark coat and a white furred hat. Pellerat said, The planetary decor seems to be black and white. Trevise said, It may be more lively in the city proper. Gone to the city, folks? Asked the driver. That's right, Trevise said. The taxi pulled out slowly, and the driver said, That ship you came in on is gravitic, isn't it? The man spoke a galactic dialect, but he wasn't hard to understand. Trevise said, Considering the way it came down, would you doubt it? The driver said, Is it from Terminus, then? Trevise said, Do you know any other world that could build one? Do you always answer a question with a question? Trevise couldn't resist. Why not? In that case, how would you answer me if I asked if your name were Golan Trevise? I would answer, What makes you ask? The taxi came to a halt at the outskirts of the spaceport. My friend, we're not moving till you answer the question. Yes, I am Golan Trevise, and as a councilman of the Foundation, I expect to be treated with all the courtesy due my rank. The taxi began to move again. I choose my passengers carefully, and I had expected to pick up 2 men only. The woman was a surprise. But then I can leave it to you to explain that when you reach your destination. You don't know my destination, Trevise said with a start. As it happens, I do. You're going to the Department of Transportation. The taxi stopped before a low, broad building. 3 Comparellans in ballooning garments, probably electrically heated, approached, and the door of the taxi opened. Trevise noted with distinct indignation that each of them carried a blaster in his holster. Your pardon, Councilman, one of them said gruffly. He pulled Trevise's coat open roughly and frisked him. Pellerat, his mouth in a twisted grimace, underwent the same indignity at the hands of a second Comparellan. But Bliss, not wanting to be touched, whipped her coat off and exposed herself in her light clothing to the whistle of the wind. You can see I'm not armed. The freezing tone of her voice matched the temperature. One of the Comparellans gestured, and the 3 Outworlders followed him. And then, almost at once, they were inside the huge building. Inside, the walls were gray, and the clothing of the people was black, gray, and white. Faces were grim or expressionless, and everyone seemed to breathe purposefulness. Trevise, Pellerat, and Bliss were escorted through a door marked Mitza Lizalor, Mintrans for Minister of Transportation, Trevise assumed. The occupant of the office was a woman. Even if her breasts were ignored, her short hair proved it. The women Trevise had so far seen all had hair shorter than the men's. "Good afternoon," the minister said. "It is not often that we are honored by a visit of men from Terminus, and of an unreported woman as well." Her eyes passed from one to another, then settled on Trevise. "And one of the men a member of the council, too." "Councilman Golan Trevise, on a mission from the Foundation." "On a mission?" The minister's eyebrows rose. "On a mission. Why, then, have we been treated as felons?" The minister consulted papers lying on her desk. "I will explain as soon as I am certain of my facts. There is no mention in this report of a woman. Is this woman a member of the ship's complement?" "She is, Minister," said Trevise. "Then I address myself to the woman. Your name, miss?" "I am known as Bliss, though my full name is longer. Do you wish it all?" The minister frowned. "I will be content with Bliss for the moment. Of what world are you a citizen, Bliss?" "I have no papers attesting to citizenship with regard to any world, madam." "No papers? What is it you are doing on board the ship?" "Why are you badgering this woman, Minister? What law has she broken?" Minister Lizalor's eyes shifted from Bliss to Trevise. "It is a general rule in the galaxy, Councilman, that visitors have their identification papers with them." Trevise hesitated. Clearly the border guard Kendre had not kept faith with him, so there was no point in protecting him. He said, "We were not detained at the immigration station, Minister." "It is true, Councilman, that you were not detained, and the woman was not reported. I suspect that the immigration officers decided, and quite correctly, that the first priority was simply to get your ship to the surface. In any case, your passenger had nothing to do with your being taken into custody. We have acted on behalf of the Foundation, of which, as you know, we are an associated power." Trevise stared at her. "But that's impossible, Minister. It's even worse. It's ridiculous." "I'm interested in the way you consider it worse to be ridiculous than impossible, Councilman. I agree with you there. Unfortunately for you, it is neither. Why should it be?" "I am on a mission for the government of the Foundation, and it is inconceivable that they would wish to arrest me." "I am not asked to arrest you directly," she answered. "I do so only that I may carry out what I am asked to do, Councilman, and that is to commandeer your ship and return it to the Foundation." "What?" "You omit my title, Councilman, and that is very slipshod of you. The ship is not yours, I presume?" "Of course not, Minister." "It is a gravitic ship, Councilman, and there cannot be many of those. The Foundation must regret having assigned one to you. Perhaps you can persuade them to assign you a less valuable ship that will nevertheless suffice for your mission. But we must have the ship in which you arrived. The request I am acting on appears to have been sent out to all the worlds under Foundation jurisdiction or association, and from this I deduce that the Foundation does not even know your itinerary." Trevise said with a certain difficulty, "I would like to see a copy of the request from the Foundation government, Minister. I am entitled, I think, to that?" "Certainly, if all this comes to legal action. We take our legal forms very seriously, Councilman, and your rights will be fully protected, I assure you. It would be better and easier, however, if we come to an agreement without the publicity and delay of legal action. We would prefer that, and I am certain so would the Foundation, which cannot wish the galaxy at large to know of a runaway legislator." Trevise was silent, and the minister went on as imperturbable as ever. "Come, councilman, either way, by informal agreement or by trial, we intend to have the ship. The penalty for bringing in a worldless passenger will depend on which route we take. Demand the law, and she will be an additional point against you. Come to an agreement, and your passenger can be sent away by commercial flight to any destination she wishes, and you too can accompany her if you wish. If, for any reason, you do not wish to return to Foundation-controlled territory, we might even be willing to offer you refuge here, or even Comparellian citizenship." Trevise said, "May I have your permission, Minister, to consult with Dr. Pellerat and Miss Bliss for a short while?" "Certainly, Councilman." They were led into a small, well-lighted room by a guard who remained outside. Trevise said, "I can only hope we can't be overheard." "It doesn't matter," said Bliss. "Gaia's mind is a shielding device." "We are here because of the limitations of that enormous mind." "What do you mean?" said Bliss. "When the triple confrontation broke up, you withdrew me from the minds of both the mayor and that second Foundationer Gendabal. Neither was to think of me again, except indifferently. But you did not withdraw my ship from their minds, did you?" Bliss said softly, "That is possible." "Well, then," said Trevise, "it's up to you to rectify that mistake." "But we don't know where it would lead. If I adjust the minister's mind now, that will affect her dealings with others with whom she will come in contact. And since she is a high official in her government, it may affect interstellar relations. We dare not touch her mind." "Then why are you with us?" "Because the time may come when your life is threatened, and it is not threatened now. You must work this out for yourself." The door opened, and the guard said, "Come out." As they emerged, Pellerat whispered, "What are you going to do, Golan?" "I'm not entirely sure. I will have to improvise." Minister Lizalore smiled grimly as they walked into her office. She said, "I trust, Councilman Trevise, that you have returned to tell me that you are giving up this Foundation ship you have." "I have come, Minister," said Trevise, "to discuss terms." "There are no terms to discuss, Councilman." "Indeed there are, Minister, because you cannot seize the ship without my consent. Any attempt you make at forced entry will destroy it, and the spaceport with it. I propose you let my friend and the young woman go to some comfortable hotel and obtain some badly needed rest. Let your guards leave too. You are not a small woman, and with your blaster, you have nothing to fear from me. I am unarmed." The minister leaned toward him across the desk. "I have nothing to fear from you in any case." She beckoned to one of the guards. "Guard, take that one and that one to Suite 5. They are to stay there and be made comfortable." When she stood, Trevise couldn't help flinching a little. She was tall as he was, and massive, and he thought ruefully that in a rough and tumble she would have no trouble pinning his shoulders to the mat. "Come with me, Councilman." She led him to an elevator which carried them deep beneath the surface of the planet to a private apartment. It was the first time Trevise saw color on this world, not to mention comfortable cushioned couches and soft lighting. When the minister saw his look of surprise, she asked, "Do you disapprove of my living quarters, Councilman?" "No, I have no reason to, Minister. It is merely unexpected. The impression I had was that your world was an abstemious one, eschewing useless luxury." "So it is, Councilman. Our resources are limited, and our life must be as harsh as our climate. Still, rank has its privileges, as well as its duties. Now sit down, and tell me what you have to say. In private conversation, we need not observe the rules of formal discourse too punctiliously. You may call me Lizalore. I will call you Trevise." Trevise sat down. See here, Lizalore, you gave me the choice of either agreeing to give up the ship voluntarily or of being subjected to a formal trial. Yet you have been trying to persuade me to adopt the former alternative. You offered me another ship, granted me time to consult with my friends, even offered citizenship on Comparellan. It makes me think that you want me to grant you the ship without the necessity of a trial. A trial is a public affair, and the Foundation would know of it, and you would have to hand over the ship to it once the trial was over. With a private agreement, the Foundation would not know I am on this world, and Comparellan could keep the ship for itself.
Why should we do that? The minister asked. Are we not part of the Foundation Confederation?
Not quite. Your status is that of an associated power. So might not Comparellan be dreaming of total independence, or even leadership? Now, with the gravitic ship, if you could only learn its workings in detail, you would take a giant technological step forward and perhaps re-establish your lost position of power.
Minister Lizalore allowed a cold smile to cross her face. You can't be serious in this. Any government that kept the ship would surely experience the Foundation's wrath.
Trevise said, only if the Foundation knew there was something to be wrathful about. But let me suggest a compromise of my own. I am on an important mission. It began with Foundation support, though that support now seems to have been suspended. Let me have Comparellian support instead, and if I complete the mission successfully, Comparellan will benefit. Once I have completed the mission, the ship may not even be of use to me, and then I would not object to Comparellan having it.
Minister Lizalore rose from the couch. I am hungry, Councilman Trevise, and I will get no further on an empty stomach. I will offer you something to eat and drink, and after that we will finish the matter. And it seemed to Trevise that there was a rather carnivorous look of anticipation about her at that moment, so that he tightened his lips with a bit of unease.
The meal might have been a nourishing one, but it was not one to delight the palate.
I hope you found the meal pleasant, said Lizalore as they left the dining room.
Quite pleasant, said Trevise. The minister again took her seat on the couch.
Let us return, then, to our earlier discussion. You had mentioned that Comparellan might resent the Foundation's overlordship of the galaxy. In a way, that's true, but that aspect of the situation would interest only those who are interested in interstellar politics, and they are comparatively few. What is much more to the point is that the average Comparellan is horrified at the immorality of the Foundation.
Immorality? Trevise was puzzled. Whatever the faults of the Foundation, you have to admit that it runs its part of the galaxy with physical honesty. Civil rights are, by and large, respected, and—
Councilman Trevise, I speak of sexual morality. Here on Comparellan, every aspect of sex is strongly controlled. It may not take place out of marriage. Its expression is limited even within marriage. We are sadly shocked at those worlds, at Terminus particularly, where sex seems to be considered a mere social pleasure.
Trevise shrugged. I'm sorry, but I can't undertake to reform the galaxy, or even Terminus. And what has this to do with the matter of my ship?
Will you deny that the woman you have taken on board ship is anything other than a sexual convenience?
Of course I deny it. Bliss is the companion of my friend, Dr. Pellerat. You may not define their state as marriage, but I believe that in Pellerat's mind, and in the woman's too, there is a marriage between them.
Are you telling me you are not involved yourself?
Certainly not. I don't even particularly like her. For one thing, she is too young, too childlike in some ways.
Do you prefer women of maturity, then?
There was again that carnivorous look in the minister's eyes.
Don't mistake me, Trevise. Rank has its privileges, and it is possible to be discreet. I am not altogether an abstainer. Nevertheless, Comparellan men are unsatisfying.
Trevise said very cautiously, There is nothing I can do about that, either. The minister looked exasperated.
Then she put her hand to her waist, and in a moment the bodice of her black gown hung open. Trevise sat frozen. Had this been in her mind since when? Or was it a bribe to accomplish what threats had not? The minister sat there, bare from the waist up, with a look of proud disdain on her face. "Well?" she said. "Magnificent," he answered in all honesty. "And what will you do about it?" she asked. Trevise stood up and began to disrobe.